This is our homily for Sunday, August 4th, the 18th Sunday of Ordinary Time. After Mass one day, a parishioner said to me, "Father Paul, today your sermon reminded me of the peace and love of God." I was thrilled and replied, "No one has ever said anything that nice about one of my homilies before. What made you say that?" "Well," the woman replied, "it reminded me of the peace of God because it passed all understanding, and of the love of God because it endured forever." In our reading today and in the weeks ahead, we are invited to believe in Jesus. That is, not just intellectually, but by moving away from our innate selfishness to selflessness. And so our first reading from Exodus and our gospel address our very human tendency to want to be safe, to secure the future by accumulating things. In the first reading, God's instructions are very clear. Each day, the people are to go out and gather their daily portion, just what they need for that day, not trying to make themselves secure for tomorrow. Then the Lord adds, and I quote, "Thus I will test them to see whether they follow my instructions or not," end quote. Are they able to trust that the Lord will give them the manna they need tomorrow, or will they try to secure it themselves by hoarding as much manna as they can? In the gospel, Jesus accuses the people of coming to him because they had been fed with the loaves and fishes. Now, these people live day to day without steady jobs and income like we have. Imagine how attractive a steady supply of food would be. Jesus says to them, "You are looking for me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate the loaves and were filled." Then he adds, "Do not work for food that perishes, but for the food that endures for eternal life." Food that endures for eternal life. The people ask, "What must we do to get this?" Being used to thinking about everything from the perspective of the law, they're asking Jesus, what works, practices, or observances do we need to follow to get the food for eternal life? Jesus' answer touches the heart of Christianity. This is carrying out God's work. And notice it's singular, one work. This is carrying out God's work. You must believe in the one he has sent. God only wants them and us to believe in Jesus Christ, since he is the great gift that God has sent into the world. And to believe doesn't just mean say I believe, but to follow what he says. This is a new demand. It is on this that we need to work, and anything else is secondary. We need to move on from having the attitude of those who follow a religion of beliefs and practices to those of living as disciples of Jesus. Christian faith doesn't consist principally in correctly fulfilling a list of practices and observances as the Jews of the Old Testament did. No, Christian identity is in learning to live a way of life that is born of a living and trusting relationship with Jesus Christ. We make ourselves Christian to the extent that we learn to think, feel, love, work, suffer, and live as did Jesus. But if we want to learn to think, feel, love, work, suffer, and live as Jesus did, it means we have to get to know him more and more as we get to know good friends more and more. If I meet you and am attracted by your personality and think I would like to be your friend, what would I do? Hey, want to go to lunch someday? Want to go to see a movie or go for a walk? I want to find time to be with you, to learn about you, to share about me, and to listen to you. That, my friends, is what we must be doing with Jesus. And there are two main ways to do this. The first is using the Gospels to learn how Jesus thought, interacted with others, taught, and so on. We have to know how he acted if we want to act in the same way. The second is to take time to be quiet and listen, to share thoughts and feelings with the Lord, but then let him speak. This is very important in our noisy world. We need to find a time in our daily schedule where we can do this. I use my commuting time in addition to having the first cup or two of coffee with the Lord in the morning. That works for me. What would work for you? Having a strong relationship with the Lord and living more and more as he did are what our faith is all about. And the Eucharist, as we will hear in the next weeks, is a special way to help us as we try to live as Christ did. So the reflection I invite us to this week is the Lord truly a friend? How much quiet time do I spend? Does the way I live my life reflect his values and his trust in the Father? How can I find more time to be with the Lord in quiet, to listen to him? And as we struggle to grow as true disciples, let us support each other in prayer. God bless.